G'day, how you doing? Adam here from Poseidon Racing with another Zed Run update. In this video, I want to talk about an alternate class system. Now, this alternate class system may not even be ready to be introduced now because we may not have enough players and enough horses to sustain what I think is the ideal class system. But I just want to put it out there and see if you guys think that it might be a better system than the current system we have. Now, I have mentioned this a couple of times before in other videos, but I wanted a dedicated video to outline what I think would be the most ideal class system. Now, the issue that I think we have with the current system, well, there's probably a couple of issues, to be honest, but the main issue that I see is when a new player comes in. Let's assume that we take the shoes, we step into the shoes of a brand new player, and we've just bought our first horse. It's unraced, never been raced before, and we put it in that first Griffin and we see, oh, this is pretty cool. All these horses are unraced as well. That's great. And then we come out of that Griffin, doesn't really matter about the result or whatnot just yet, and we decide, well, this game's really fun. I want to try and enter one of these paid races, maybe just a small $2.50 race or a $5 race to begin with. You enter that first paid race, and then you look at the horses in there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this horse has run 2,000 times and has 500 wins, or you know what I mean? Like just astronomical figures. And it's absolutely clear from that point on that I, as the new player, am an absolute novice coming up against extremely experienced players with extremely experienced horses that they know like the back of their hand. Like those horses, those stables and those trainers or those owners, they know that that horse is a good runner at 1,400 or 1,600 or whatever that happens to be, that race distance. Whereas me as a brand new player, I don't even know what's going on with this game yet, let alone figuring out my horse and what distance it might be best at. So I think one of the biggest issues with the current class system is the fact that you come straight out of a Griffin and you're racing against these absolute epic veterans, you know, in whatever class that happens to be, whether it be class 3 or 4 or 5 or even 1 or 2. It doesn't really matter where you land in that class system after your first race. You're going to come up against just this extraordinary pool of absolute monster races with, you know, maybe up to 1,000 or a couple of thousand races behind them and just a multitude of wins. It doesn't seem right. And from a new player coming in, that would turn me off. You know, I would think, oh, I'm so far behind the curve here, I'm never going to catch up. Why bother even playing? And then that would be compounded by racing probably my first 5 or 10 races. Look, some new stables will get lucky and be profitable over those first 10, 20 races, but many are just going to lose all that money and just think, what's going on? I don't know how to play this game. And they're up against all these other horses that just look like they have the playing field tilted in their direction, when they actually don't really. They just understand the game and understand the horses really, really well. But it's not so much that, it's more the visual, I suppose, or the mental aspect of going from a Griffin with all unraced horses and moving straight into, you know, this epic class of horse racing where the horses have, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of races behind them. Okay, so my solution, I'm not one for just having a whinge and not offering up a solution. So I've thought about this a lot. My solution, we'll run through that now. What I think we need to do, as well as separating the classes, maybe into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like we currently do. And this is why we might need to wait for the perfect class system for maybe even another year or so, because maybe we don't have the sheer horse numbers to sustain what I'm about to say. Because what we don't want to do is spread out all the classes and all the horses too much to a point where you can't fill a race. Okay, that's not ideal either. That's probably a worst case scenario. So the ideal class system, whether it be now or 6 months or 12 months, this is what I think it looks like. So again, I'm in the shoes of a brand new player here. I've got that unraced horse, and I think, look, initially we could offer some barrier trials. Some free barrier trials, whether that be 10 or 15 barrier trials where you race against other unraced horses to get a bit of an idea how the game works and what distance your horse may be best at. Okay, so if you've got 10 races, you might put it in a 1,200 and you come 11th or 10th or something, and you think, well, maybe that's not for me. Now, that's not always the case, because we know a horse can have a bad day, and he or she might actually be, an absolute monster at that short distance, even though he or she came 10th or 12th. But it gives you a bit of a play around. You might go in a 1600 and finish second, and you might go in a 2400 and finish first. And that might be enough to decide, well, I'm going to experiment with the longer distances initially, and then work my way through the other distances. So a few barrier trials first will offer a couple of things. It will offer a little bit of comfort level to these new players that they don't have to pay money to sort of learn that horse. They get a little bit of a jump start into the game, a little bit of a feel for the game, get a little bit of the blood pumping and the excitement of a horse sort of running for the finish line and getting overtaken, or winning by a nose right on the finish line. That sort of excitement that really builds up without having to worry about money straight away, entering dollar competitions straight away. Now, secondly, we're hearing that the odds system might be changing, because at the moment we have an odds system that is very, very accurate, that is based on looking into 1,000 simulations of that particular race, which gives you a very accurate description of how many races your horse is potentially going to win over those 1,000 races, and that's how the odds are derived. Now, we're hearing that that's going to be changed or replaced with a different solution that is not as accurate and doesn't look into the future as far, and in actual fact a better solution for the odds might be to look at the past history of the horse, and in which case having 10 or 15 barrier trials against a field of other unraced horses before you enter your first official Griffin race would give you a race history that you could compare against the rest of the field and give you a nice base level for the odds, a history-based odds in that first race, which would be cool. Okay, so we've got the barrier trials, free barrier trials against other unraced horses to get yourself a bit of a feel for the game. The next level, we can go on to then our Griffin, which is tongue twisted, which of course is the first official race. Again, that Griffin is a free race. In this case, that free race at the moment, you are competing for a prize pool, roughly about $40 US. That can stay the same. I wouldn't think we would be competing for prize money in the barrier trials. I think that can just be completely free and just the results-based system to get a bit of a feel. Okay, so you got the Griffin racing against all unraced horses in their first ever race. And then from there, that's where we currently would normally go into the one big class system that we currently have. We just have this one umbrella that covers the entire class system. It is split into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 being the best, 5 being different. I was going to say the worst, but it's not really the worst. It's kind of different. There's really great horses in 5 that sort of suit the system more so than being, I guess, the lesser horses that the class system was originally designed for. Maybe that will get fixed up in a future update as well. Not really talking about that. I'm talking about the overall look of the entire class system and a solution to that issue of coming up against these very experienced horses on your second race, essentially. So we go from that Griffin into this new class system, and what I would then propose is we split that up into a couple of categories, or maybe even 3 eventually. I would suggest that we have a rookie class is your next level of racing. So I would say you got your barrier trials in Griffin. That would be like level 1 for unraced horses. And then you have your rookie class, level 2. You would then have maybe a pro class, professional class, level 3. And then eventually, when we have enough horses, we might have an all-star or elite class or something, maybe all-star class. Okay, now how do we separate those? I suggest that we separate those classes based on race experience of the horse. Okay, so what I mean by that is, as you come into the rookie class, you stay in that rookie class from that 1 race through to say 50 or 60 or 70 races. That's all you stay in that class for. And why that is important, because when you come out of your Griffin and you go into your first rookie class paid event, the worst case scenario that you're going to see is another horse that has 70 races, whatever the maximum amount for rookie class is, 70 races. And if it's a real monster horse, look, it might have 20 to 30% win rate, so it might have 20 wins. So you think, well, that's not as daunting as coming up against a horse that has 2,000 races and 300 wins, for example. You just think, what am I doing in this class? And keep in mind that rookie class is fluid. So as that horse that has 70 races and 25 odd wins races that next race, they move up to the next class level, the next experience level, and that horse will be gone. So as you yourself move through that class, you're going to be getting more and more experience. By the time you yourself get to your 60th and 70th race, you should know that horse pretty well, and you should be, to some degree, be able to take advantage of knowing which races your horse is better suited to, and in which case maybe do a little bit better at that end of that class. Now keep in mind, you're only going to be racing against the real monster dominant horses of your time frame, of your class year, if you like, because the likes of the current dominant set of horses that have 500 or 1,000 races should be by that stage all the way up in all-star class. Okay, so the chance of, your rookie class year having, all these dominant horses and absolutely dominating all the classes, which is happening right now, you can't really go into a race right now without 2 or 3 or 4 dominant horses being in there and really ruining your chance of winning. Whereas this rookie class, no one really knows to a great degree where these horses are best suited until right to the end of rookie class. And even then it's going to be a little bit of a mystery. So it adds a lot more mystery. It makes it a lot easier for the newer players to sort of find their feet, as in they're only racing against other horses that those trainers don't really know the true quality or the true strengths or the distance preferences or any other preferences that might be included in the future. Myself as an experienced player, I won't have as much of an advantage that I currently do with a horse that has a couple of hundred or 300 or 400 races racing against your horse if you've only had one race. Diminishes that advantage, which is really important. And then as we go through rookie class, and let me say, within rookie class itself, we would still need to split that into some classes as well. So you have these 4 different experience classes, as I said, the early stage free barrier trials, rookie class, professional, super all-star. They would be the experience levels. Now within those later 3 levels, so don't worry about the barrier trials, within the rookie class, pro class, and the all-star class, you would also need to split them into, say, the current 5 class system as well, just to spread out. And that would also help in rookie class, wouldn't it? Spread out those horses. Now we need to think about that a little bit actually, because in rookie class, you're going to struggle to fill class 1. So that needs to be thought about. How do we sort of split those horses in rookie class off a little bit into, maybe we just have 3 classes in rookie, and then as we get to the next level, maybe we have 4, and then as we get to all-star, maybe we have 5. See, because the problem I'm seeing in rookie class is, if you've got class 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 being the best, then how do we get the horses into class 1 early enough so that those races are running? It's not going to be terribly easy, is it, to get that to happen? So we might just have to have 3 classes, and then your top tier sort of Zed Run Nakamotos and stuff would sort of have a base level that would land them somewhere around, let's say class 3, if we have, say, just 3, 4, 5. And then your Z10s and 11s and 12s and 20s would land in class 5, and then depending on their specific win rates, they would drop up or down depending on that. That would work quite well, okay? But I'm not sure we can have class 2 and 1 so early on, because you're going to get 1 or 2 horses that progress up and then are left alone in class 1 or 2, sort of, not being able to race for long periods of time. So that won't work. We need to keep it to those 3 classes that are chock-a-block packed full of horses, so those races can run regularly. Okay, and then as we switch from rookie class, sounds complex, but I don't think it is. I think it works quite well. You're probably scratching your head like, this is never going to work, it's too complex. As we move from rookie class to professional level class, we would extend those classes out and reassign those graduating horses into maybe 4 classes. Maybe now we have 5, 4, 3, and 2. Okay, and a certain amount, 20% of the horses that graduate from rookie would need to go up into class 2 to make sure that those class 2 races were always well populated. Or in actual fact, by that stage, you probably don't need to so much because you're always pushing in new horses at the bottom, and the class 2 of the professional level would be probably more so filled up by the horses that were towards the end of that experience level. What I mean by experience level, the rookie class goes from basically 1 race or 0 races out to say 60 or 70. And then the professional level would go from that point, 60 or 70, out to say, what do we think, 200? I think 200 would be a fair number. Okay, so you get to really understand your horse racing in similar experience level or against similar experience level horses in that professional level class, and again split into say 4 subclasses, and then all the monster horses or all the most experienced horses, or maybe even the professional level could even go to like 300 races or something like that. That needs to be determined and figured out where that nice balance is. But then All-Star goes from 300 races and onwards. So even if you have a bit of a borderline horse, and that's what's happening right now, the borderline horses can't race because they get dominated by the All-Star horses. But even if you have a borderline horse, you should be relatively sheltered in this experience-based class system that in the rookie class, you should do reasonably well if you figure out your distances early enough and figure out your preferences early enough. And then you're even quite sheltered in the pro level class because all the absolute superstar horses are up there in All-Star, you know, like Breathless Edge, a couple of my horses that come to mind, Breathless Edge and Insane Him would be up there in the All-Star. And then you've got other big name horses like Steph Curry, Vanilla Bean. There's a lot of other ones as well floating around that are currently floating in this 1-tier class system. And even some of those horses are dominating class 4 and 5 because they lose a lot of races so they don't move up. And you get these absolute monster horses that potentially are some of the best horses in the game floating around and dominating class 4s and 5s. Okay, so this experience base where you go barrier trials for 10 or 15 races, free barrier trials to sort of get a bit of a feel for your horse in the game. You go into your Griffin and compete for that free race prize money. Beautiful, 1 Griffin each. And then you move into rookie class where you're only racing against horses with a maximum experience level of say 50 or 70 races, something like that. The brains at Zed Run can figure out the perfect number there, or that can always change if we think it's not quite right. And then you move up to the professional level where that goes from say 70 races out to 250 or 300. Gives you a nice sort of semi-sheltered environment to race that horse. And then once you get from there, you go into the All-Star League once you cross over that 250 or 300 races or whatever that number is decided. You go into the All-Star category and, you know, once you get to there, you might come up against all these incredibly talented horses, and that might be a natural time to say, right, I've had a good run here. You know, you might give yourself 10 races in All-Star, and if you're not getting the results that you thought you were getting and you're starting to sort of lose a bit of money, you might even try, you know, the first 50 races. You might give yourself a 50 race budget to see how you go. And if your ROI starts dropping, your return on investment starts dropping, you're not winning the races you were hoping to, that's probably a natural point to say, right, we had a good run. We had 250, 300 races. We made a little bit of money. My horse is now probably not as competitive in All-Star as it was in the Pro League. So it might be a good time just to retire this horse, focus on breeding, find the next champion and bring that right through the rookie class, through the pro class, and start the whole cycle again. Okay? So I know it kind of sounds complex, but when you break it down, it's quite simple. We keep the current class structure to a degree where we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the main point is to break up into three main segments. You've got your free barrier trials, but then you've got those three main segments. Rookie, which is the inexperienced horses. Pro level, which is your more experienced horses. And then you've got the all-star, which are your veteran, super experienced horses where everyone really knows what's going on by the time you get to that level. Okay, I think that would be absolutely incredible. I know there could be some other, or there is going to be, and you're already seeing the players generate their own styles of racing to suit the more lesser horses, the donkey horses, if you like. We're going to see those races come eventually, but initially what I think we need is a real vision on what the class system looks like for our everyday racing. Okay, you could argue, for example, that let's have some donkey races where, 8th place or something is rewarded. Well, that will come in good time, but where the game needs to be really strong is in your everyday racing environment, okay? And I think this rookie, pro level, all-star level, experience-based class system will work really, really well. Let me know in the comments below if you think that will work, if you think it's a better solution, if you think it's a good solution for the long term, as I do. Let me know, and we'll see where it goes from there. Message the Zed team, tell them we got a new video, see what they think, and we'll see what happens. All right, thanks again for watching along. If you love the content, hit the like button, and if you enjoy sports-based NFT games, then subscribe to the channel. You will love the content here. Thanks once again, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.